The Enigma Queen collapsed before anyone saw the blood. One moment, Maelys stood at the head of the obsidian council table, listening to 12 noblewomen argue over the coming coronation. The next, one black-gloved hand struck the table hard enough to crack a crystal inkpot. Her other hand went beneath her cloak and came out holding a dagger. Every royal physician rushed forward. Maelys lifted the blade. They stopped as if an invisible wall had risen between them and the throne. Everyone knew the rule. The queen allowed no one to touch her, not guards, attendants, or even the physicians sworn to preserve her life. That morning, the rule was killing her. Elara smelled iron beneath the incense. She saw a narrow line of blood sliding from the lower edge of Maelys's ceremonial breastplate. It was too dark for a fresh wound, and a faint silver dust clung to the leather seam. The Omega surgeon stepped past the frozen physicians. "Stay back," Maelys warned. Her voice was steady, but her pupils were too wide. Sweat shone at her temples. The fingers around her dagger trembled once, then tightened. Elara stopped just beyond the blade's reach. "Your Majesty, the wound isn't what is killing you. Your armor is." Royal physician Vera Corvin pushed to the front. "This woman is a battlefield surgeon, not a court healer." "Remove her." Elara ignored her. She watched the queen's breathing turn shallow and counted the seconds between each uneven pulse at her throat. "If that metal stays against your skin, you will lose consciousness in less than 3 minutes," Elara said. "If your physicians pull it away carelessly, whatever is inside the lining will enter the wounds faster. I need to examine the fastenings, and I need your permission." Maelys's gaze moved over Elara's travel-stained coat and faded Omega service mark. "You crossed a room full of armed alphas after I drew a knife," Maelys said. "Are you fearless, surgeon?" "No. I simply know what dying looks like." The dagger remained between them. Elara lowered her voice. "If you want to live, take off your armor." The council chamber stopped breathing. No one gave Maelys commands, yet this unknown Omega had told the untouchable queen to expose her shield. Maelys looked down at the blood gathering beneath the black steel. Then she turned the dagger, placed it on the table, and said, "Clear the room." Vera stared at her. "Your Majesty." Everyone except Captain Vale and the Omega. Chairs scraped backward. Nobles fled with unusual speed. Vera lingered until Captain Tamsin Vale rested a hand on the sword at her hip. The royal physician left last, her pale eyes fixed on Elara's medical case. When the doors closed, Maelys swayed. Elara did not catch her. She kept both hands visible. "May I support your arm?" After a moment, she nodded. Elara touched her for the first time. Fever burned through Maelys's sleeve. The queen went rigid, so Elara waited until Maelys chose to lean closer before guiding her into the council chair. "Captain, lock the doors," Elara said. "Open the eastern windows. Do not touch the armor with bare skin." Tamsin obeyed, without seeking confirmation. The captain had seen Maelys wounded before. She knew this was different. Elara crouched at the queen's side. "I need to remove the shoulder clasps. I will tell you before I touch each one. If you say stop, I stop." "You speak as though I am a frightened patient." "You are a frightened patient. You are also a queen. Neither truth cancels the other." "Proceed," she said. Elara wrapped her fingers in clean linen and released the first clasp. A bitter scent rose from beneath the steel, sharp as crushed coins. The skin below Maelys's collarbone was streaked with fine black cuts, each one edged in silver. Elara released the second clasp. "Hold your breath." She lifted the breastplate away, without letting its inner surface scrape Maelys's body. Tiny glassy crystals glittered in the padded lining. They had been sewn into the cloth where heat and movement would grind them slowly against the wearer. Someone had turned the queen's armor into the weapon. Maelys saw Elara's expression. "Tell me." "A powdered compound is embedded in the padding. It entered through friction wounds. You have probably been receiving small doses for weeks. Today's council armor was prepared with enough to finish the work." "Can you stop it?" "I can try." "That was not my question." Elara met her gaze. Yes, but I need hot water, charcoal, winter root, 3 clean bowls, and every bottle in the royal poison cabinet brought here unopened. I also need your physicians kept away from all of it. Tamsin moved toward the bell rope. Captain, Malis said, still watching Elara, seal the armory, arrest no one yet. If the court learns what happened, the traitor will destroy the evidence. Then her eyes closed. Elara caught her before her head struck the chair. For the next hour, the most feared woman in the Northern Kingdoms survived by following an Omega's voice. Elara named every touch, cleaned the cuts, pressed charcoal paste into them, and gave Maelis winter root. Whenever the queen woke in panic, Elara stepped back until Maelis invited her closer again. At last, the queen's pulse slowed. Elara sat beside the chair, hands stained black. Tamsin guarded the discarded breastplate like a living assassin. Maelis opened her eyes. You are still here. Disappointing, I know. Elara reached for her medicine cup, but Maelis caught her wrist. It was the first touch the queen initiated. Maelis released her at once. Who sent for you? Elara rubbed the place where the queen's fingers had been. The royal household. A sealed order arrived at the border hospital 6 days ago. It said the palace required a surgeon experienced in mineral poisons and battlefield wounds. I issued no such order. The room went colder. Tamsin turned from the windows. Then someone brought her here before the attack. Maelis studied Elara, as if deciding whether she was a cure or another weapon. Search her case. Elara slid the leather case across the floor herself. Do it. If someone forged an order to place me beside the queen, I want to know why. The captain found instruments, field dressings, stale biscuits, and an old ledger bearing the name of Elara's dead mentor. There was no poison. That did not prove innocence. Everyone in the room knew it. Maelis pushed herself upright. Until I know who summoned you, you will remain in the East Royal Wing. Elara's jaw tightened. As your prisoner? As the only person in this palace who recognized what was killing me. A locked door feels the same from either side, Your Majesty. Then she removed the key to the East Wing from a chain at her waist and held it out on her palm. The outer doors will be guarded. The rooms within them will not be locked. This key opens every one. Keep it. Elara accepted it carefully. Protection without choice is only a prettier cage. Then keep reminding me where the bars are. By noon, the palace claimed the queen had suffered exhaustion and invited an Omega surgeon to oversee her recovery. No one believed it. Servants watched Tamsin escort Elara to the heavily guarded East Wing. Elara was given a suite larger than the border infirmary. She disliked it immediately. Elara set her medical case on the desk. Where is the queen? In the room across the gallery, Tamsin said, refusing to rest. Then why did you bring me here? Because she ordered me to show you your rooms before you started ordering her around again. Does she always make this much sense after nearly dying? This is one of her better days. Before she could cross the gallery, 2 attendants arrived with a tray of soup, bread, and wine. Elara caught the smell before the silver covers were lifted. Put it down, she said. The meal came from the queen's private kitchen, an attendant protested. Elara tested the soup, then the wine. A gray stain spread across the treated paper. Tamsin drew her sword. Elara held up a hand. It may be residue from the bottle. No one touches anything until I identify it. The door across the gallery opened. Maelis stood there in a plain black shirt and trousers, her hair unbound over one shoulder. Without her armor, she looked less like a monument and more dangerous, as though the steel had hidden rather than created her strength. Whose wine? She asked. The senior attendant went pale. From the royal cellar, Your Majesty. Everyone moved away as Maelis crossed the gallery. She stopped beside Elara, close enough that their sleeves almost touched. Test mine, she said. Tamsin fetched the cup from Maelis's room. The paper turned gray again. Elara examined both samples, then smelled the clean edge of each cup. Not the wine. The polishing compound on the silver contains moonlead, enough to make an Omega ill, and worsen the queen's current symptoms, but not enough to kill quickly. An accident? Tamsin asked. Perhaps. Melis looked at the two attendants. Replace every cup in this wing with glass. Until this is resolved, the surgeon and I eat from the same sealed kitchen deliveries. Captain Vale will witness their opening. Alara turned to her. You do not need to share my meals. No, but if someone intends to poison you, I would like them to understand the cost of trying. The attendants stared. Tamsin looked carefully at the ceiling. Alara felt heat climb into her face, and hated that Melis noticed. That sounded remarkably like a threat, Alara said. It was meant to. By evening, every servant knew that the untouchable queen had ordered her food served beside an Omega's. Tamsin broke the seals, while Alara tested each dish. Melis nodded toward the old ledger. You trained under Anwen Mar. For 9 years. She treated both sides during the Ash War and refused a royal appointment because palaces hid knives and compliments. Why did she teach you mineral poisons? Poor villages use mine runoff and metal dust. The symptoms resemble fever until it is too late. Alara turned the questions back on Melis. The headaches had begun 3 weeks earlier, the numbness 10 days earlier, but the nightmares had started 6 years and 11 months ago. Silverthorn attacks the nerves, Alara explained. It causes pain, sleeplessness, and aversion to light or touch before the lungs fail. Your rule came first, but the poisoner knew no one would examine beneath your armor. They used your boundary as cover. Melis looked toward the fire. Then they know me well. The traitor lived close enough to study the queen's fear. The next morning, silver-haired Vera Corvin arrived with 7 counselors. She saw Alara changing Melis's bandage and frowned. Your Majesty, this arrangement is improper, Vera said. The Omega has no court certification. May I continue? Alara asked. Melis nodded, and only then did Alara finish the dressing. Vera noticed the exchange. You allow her to touch you while your sworn physicians are kept outside? She asked. Melis said. We have all asked. No, you have announced what you intended to do, and called my silence permission. Vera stepped closer. This woman was summoned with a forged order. A rational queen would consider that evidence. A rational physician would consider the poison sewn into my armor evidence. Did you find it during any of your examinations? You did not permit an examination, Vera protested. She found it before touching me. One counselor cleared his throat. There is also the matter of the coronation. The ceremony cannot be delayed. Neighboring envoys have already arrived. The queen cannot wear ceremonial armor, Alara said. Vera gave a thin smile. Fortunately, surgeon, that decision belongs to the crown. The crown stops breathing like anyone else. Melis leaned back in her chair. The ceremony will proceed as scheduled. The armor will be examined by both physicians. Neither will enter the royal armory alone. Alara turned sharply. Your Majesty, you said the poison could be detected. Detect it. And if it is replaced after inspection, then we give the traitor enough rope to reveal her hand. Melis was making herself the bait, because she trusted her endurance more than anyone else's protection. Queens are not immortal, Alara said. That rumor has been useful to me. It will be less useful at your funeral. Melis only said, everyone out. The surgeon needs to lecture me in private. When the door closed, Alara folded her arms. Do you enjoy terrifying your counsel? Immensely. Do you enjoy terrifying your surgeon? Melis considered. More than I should. Alara looked down at her notes. Your pulse is elevated. I have been threatened by an Omega with my own funeral. That would explain it. When Alara reached for Melis's wrist, she waited. The queen removed her glove, revealing a pale restraint scar. Alara turned her palm upward, let Melis make first contact, then moved to her pulse. Still elevated, Alara whispered. Perhaps the funeral was not the cause. Neither of them looked away. That afternoon, they entered the royal armory under armed guard. Rows of black steel reflected the lanterns, while Elara and Vera examined the council armor. No poison in the buckles, leather, or outer polish, Vera announced. Elara turned the breastplate over. The padded lining had already been removed. Where is the original cloth? She asked. The armor master bowed. Burned, surgeon. By order of the royal physician. Contaminated material is routinely destroyed, she said. I was protecting the household. You destroyed the only evidence of how the compound was attached, Elara said. Elara examined the bare interior. Near the lower seam, one black thread remained caught beneath a rivet. She pulled it free with forceps and sealed it inside a glass tube. A thread proves little, she said. Then you will not mind me keeping it. Elara moved to the ancient coronation armor. A golden sunburst covered its heart, and its new lining looked too perfect. Who replaced this padding? Elara asked. The armor master swallowed. It arrived from the royal seamstress yesterday, already fitted. Vera reached for it. Elara caught her wrist, then released it. There is dust on the seam. A gray powder hid beneath the gold embroidery, but it did not react on Elara's paper. Vera laughed once. Your great discovery appears to be tailor's chalk. The powder was chalk, yet it carried the bitter trace of silverthorn. Someone had cleaned the armor before inspection. It was here, Elara said. Or you expected it to be, Vera replied. Maelis came forward, stopping an arm's length from the table. Seal the coronation armor, 2 gods at all times. No one enters without Captain Vale. As Tamsin issued orders, Elara saw black thread beneath one of Vera's fingernails. Vera curled her hand into a fist. The next attack came before Elara could tell Maelis. At midnight, Elara woke with a scalpel in hand and smoke beneath her door. Flames climbed the gallery curtains beside the medicine cabinet. Maelis, barefoot and ungloved, crossed the fire before her guards could stop her. The cabinet, Elara yelled. The antidote records are inside. Maelis smashed the cabinet glass. Fire caught her sleeve, and Elara beat it out before grabbing her bare forearm. The queen jerked as though struck. Elara let go at once. May I? Maelis stared at the fire, then at Elara. Yes! Together, they rescued the ledger and samples, while the guards smothered the flames. Tamsin found a dead guard in the service stairwell. A needle mark darkened the skin beneath her ear. Someone was trying to erase the person who understood the poison. Maelis stood amid the broken glass, her burned sleeve hanging loose. Elara will move into my chambers. Elara coughed through the smoke. I beg your pardon? There is one guarded entrance, no servant passage, and windows too high for an assassin. There is also one bed. Maelis's mouth curved. The sitting room has a couch. I have slept in armor on frozen ground, surgeon. I will survive upholstery. You are injured. You need the bed. Then you may have the couch. How generous. The queen stepped closer, lowering her voice. Someone tried to burn you alive. Argue with me tomorrow. Tonight, please let me keep you where I can protect you. Elara looked at the dead guard being carried from the stairwell. One night at a time, Maelis agreed. The royal bedroom held maps, scattered books, and one sword beside the bed. There were no mirrors. As Elara treated the burn, she saw an older scar disappearing beneath Maelis's shirt. The tissue looked inflamed. That scar has reopened, Elara said. It does that. Scars do not simply reopen after 7 years. Royal scars are stubborn. Royal patients are worse. Elara set down the salve. I need to see the full wound. You can refuse, but if silverthorn collected in the old tissue, it may continue entering your blood. Maelis looked toward the locked door. No one has seen it since the war. Then no one sees it tonight, unless you decide otherwise. And if I say no, I explain the risk. I give you the safest treatment possible without touching it. I do not punish you for being afraid. The queen's face emptied. She did not become cold when she felt nothing, Elara realized, but when she felt too much. Turn around, Malis said. Alara faced the fire until Malis told her to look. The scar crossed Malis's back. Pale bands circled both wrists and one side of her chest. Restraint marks. Old punctures dotted her elbow. Alara kept her voice even. I need to clean the lower edge. May I touch your shoulder first? Malis nodded. Say it. You question my nod? I want you to hear yourself choose. Malis swallowed. Yes. Touch my shoulder. Alara placed one palm on uninjured skin. Malis trembled but did not retreat. Now the scar? Yes. Alara found 3 silverthorn crystals lodged in the old wound and removed them while Malis counted breaths. Who did this to you? Alara asked when the last fragment lay in the glass dish. A physician? Vera? No, her predecessor, my mother's most trusted healer. During the last winter of the war, I was wounded and feverish. I refused an experimental tonic. She had the guards restrain me and poured it into my mouth. When I fought, she told them fear made me irrational. The tonic nearly stopped my heart. I woke 2 days later with this wound infected, and every person in the room insisting they had saved me. After I became queen, I dismissed the physician and made a rule no one could misunderstand. No one touches you without permission. They called it the Enigma's madness. It was easier to let them. Fear protects a boundary better than explanation. Alara covered the cleaned scar with a soft dressing, until someone uses the boundary to poison you. Yes. Maelise pulled up her shirt. You knew I was afraid in the council chamber. Does that anger you? It should. But? Maelise turned. You did not sound disgusted. Alara sat beside her, leaving enough space for refusal. Fear is a wound's alarm bell. It tells us where care is needed. It is not a moral failure. The queen looked down at their hands. May I touch you? Alara's heartbeat stumbled. Yes. Maelise placed bare fingers over Alara's pulse, her touch still a question. Elevated, Maelise murmured. Alara laughed softly. Perhaps the funeral was not the cause. This time, Maelise smiled. The moment shattered when someone knocked 3 times on the chamber door. Tamsin entered carrying Alara's medical case. Her expression had the hard stillness of bad news. We searched the rooms after the fire, she said. This was hidden beneath a loose board under the surgeon's bed. She placed a blue glass vial on the table. Alara knew it before the captain removed the stopper. Silverthorn. Beside the vial lay a block of black sealing wax, stamped with the private mark of the queen. The only woman permitted to touch Maelise was now accused of treason. By sunrise, Alara stood before the royal council with guards on both sides. Vera displayed the forged summons, poison, and royal seal, while nobles whispered that an ambitious Omega had engineered the crisis. Her own mentor's ledger describes the compound, Vera said. She knew precisely what symptoms it would cause. She arrived before the attack, discovered the poison no one else could see, and within a day was sleeping inside Her Majesty's chambers. Alara looked at Maelise on the throne. The queen wore black from throat to wrist. Gloves concealed her hands again. The vial was planted, Alara said. Vera spread her hands. By whom? The guard outside your suite is dead. The attendants were dismissed. Captain Vale herself found the evidence. The royal seal is wrong. Alara continued. The left wing of the crown is chipped on the queen's private seal. That impression is perfect. It was made from an older mold. Vera barely blinked. Convenient expertise for a border surgeon. Surgeons notice small differences. Our patients die when we do not. One counselor rose. Your Majesty, regardless of her claims, this Omega cannot remain beside you. Maelis's gaze revealed nothing. Alara remembered her promise to listen. Surgeon Alara will be arrested for attempted regicide, the queen said. Tamsin stepped forward. Alara did not resist when the captain bound her wrists. She did not look away from Maelise either. You asked me to trust you, Alara said. Something moved behind the queen's eyes. Take her below. The council chamber doors closed between them. In the royal cell, Alara paced, replaying how Melis had shared her food, rooms, and scars, before turning her into the monster everyone expected an outsider to be. Hours later, Vera appeared beyond the bars. "The queen leaves for the coronation temple at dawn," she said. "You will confess before then." Alara sat on the bed. "If you wanted a confession, you would have brought a clerk. I wanted to see whether the famous surgeon understood how thoroughly she has lost," Vera said. Black thread dye marked Vera's thumb. "You chose Silverthorn because it mimics fear," Alara said. "You wanted everyone to think the queen's old wounds were swallowing her mind. When she became too ill to rule, the medical council would declare her unfit. You would control the regency. A dramatic theory." The dead guard disagrees. Dead women disagree with no one. That is their principal virtue. Alara rose and came to the bars. "Why summon me?" "Anwen Mar created the first reliable treatment for Silverthorn. You inherited her ledger. I needed someone capable of keeping Melis alive long enough to reach the coronation, but foreign enough to blame when the final dose killed her. You were talented, obscure, and Omega. The court wrote the accusation for me before you arrived. You started the fire to destroy the ledger. I underestimated the queen's attachment. She ran into flames for you." Alara curled her fingers around the cold bar. "The coronation armor was cleaned before our inspection. Chalk can hide many things. Not from me. At noon, the temple heat will open her wounds. She will collapse before the crown touches her head, and your vial will explain everything." Alara's chest tightened. She knows the armor is poisoned. She suspects, but Melis always believes she can endure one more wound. Vera stepped nearer, lowering her voice. "Confess, and I will give her the antidote after the council transfers power. Refuse, and you can listen to the temple bells announce her death from this cell." Alara began to laugh. Vera's face hardened. "What is amusing?" "You forged the wrong seal. You already said that. You came to learn whether I had other evidence. You are frightened." Vera reached through the bars and seized Alara's collar. "You have nothing. I have your timing." The royal physician released her. Alara remembered Anwen's ledger. Silverthorn did not react to warmth quickly, but sun salt awakened its crystals when dissolved by sweat. The gray powder beneath the gold stitching had been sun salt. The final poison would enter through the ceremonial polish and awaken inside the heated temple. Vera turned away. "The final dose is in the polish," Alara said. The physician stopped. That was answer enough. Vera left without another word. Seconds later, a panel at the back of the cell opened. Captain Tamsin stepped through with a drawn sword. Alara stared. "How long were you listening?" "Long enough." "Did Melis know Vera would come?" "She hoped. The arrest forced Vera to act before we found the rest of her network. The queen ordered me to place you in the only cell with a hidden guard passage. Relief came first. Anger followed close behind. She used me as bait without telling me." Tamsin did not defend her. "Yes. After everything she told me about consent. Yes." Alara looked at the open panel. "Take me to her." "I cannot. Vera has watchers between here and the royal wing. If she learns the trap failed, she will change the plan. The plan has already changed. The poison will be in the ceremonial polish." Tamsin's grip tightened on her sword. "Then tell me how to stop it." Alara shook her head. "If you remove the armor, Vera disappears and returns with another method. If you arrest her now, her confession to me becomes the word of an accused prisoner against the royal physician. You suggest we let the queen wear it. I suggest we let Vera believe she will." At dawn, temple bells rolled across the capital. Crowds filled the streets to the old coronation hall. At the center rode Melis, in her line's ancient black armor. When Alara saw her through the narrow window of the guarded prison carriage, her breath stopped. The golden sunburst covered Melis's heart. Every buckle was fastened. She had worn the poisoned armor after all. The queen refused the replica, Tamsin said. Vera would notice. How long since the armor was polished? An hour. Then we may have less than another. The antidote. Alara lifted her bound hands. A small winterroot vial was hidden beneath the bandage at her wrist. Enough to slow it, not enough to reverse a full dose. Malis said you would know what to do, Tamsin said. She has an irritating amount of faith in me for someone who had me arrested. The carriage entered the temple courtyard. Guards pulled Alara before thousands of spectators. Vera waited at the temple doors with a medical satchel. Vera relaxed when she saw Alara still bound. Braziers heated the ancient hall as Maelys climbed toward the stone throne, armor scraping her wounds. Alara watched for the first sign. Her hand closed. Her stride shortened, sweat gleamed at her throat. Silverthorn was already entering her blood. The high priestess lifted the crown. Maelys Adarin, do you stand before your people freely, in strength and truth? Maelys found Alara between the guards. Not yet, she said. The priestess lowered the crown. Your Majesty? Maelys turned to face the assembled court. 3 days ago, someone attempted to murder me. Yesterday, my council was shown proof that Surgeon Alara carried the poison. Today, I will show you what proof looks like when it is not arranged by a liar. Vera stepped forward. Your Majesty, the strain has affected you. Allow me to examine. Maelys raised one hand, stopping her. Bring the prisoner, the queen ordered. Tamsin led Alara up the steps, while guards blocked Vera's escape. Maelys's breathing had become shallow. Beneath the high collar, a dark line appeared. Alara stopped before her, anger, fear, and love crowding her throat. You should not have worn it. That sounded remarkably like a command. You can imprison me for it later. Pain flickered across Maelys's face. I believe I have learned my lesson about that. The queen reached for the first buckle. For 7 years, Maelys had allowed no one to see her without armor in a public chamber. Now, before nobles, enemies, foreign rulers, and ordinary citizens, she unfastened the shield that had become a weapon. Her fingers shook at the second clasp. Alara held out her bound hands. May I help you? Maelys looked at her. Yes. Tamsin cut the bindings. Alara released the final clasps and lifted the breastplate away. The inner padding glistened. Heat and sweat had dissolved the sun salt, revealing veins of silver crystals beneath the golden stitching. Do not touch it, Alara called. Her voice carried through the temple. The compound enters broken skin. Captain, bring the glass tray. Alara cut a square from the lining onto a glass tray. Black thread crossed it in an unusual double knot. This stitch is used by the Royal Medical College to seal poison packets, Alara said. The armorers use red cord and a single knot. The person who prepared this lining had medical training. Vera's voice rang from below. Several people in this hall have medical training, including the accused Omega. Then let us examine the polish. Alara scraped the wet surface into 2 glass bowls. Into the first, she added clear water. Nothing changed. Into the second, she poured winterroot tincture. The liquid turned bright blue. Sun salt, Alara said. It awakens silverthorn when warmed. The final polish was applied this morning, while I was locked in a royal cell. She lifted her chin. An accomplice could have acted for her. True, Alara picked up the severed lining, which is why the poisoner marked her work. Beneath the padding, pressed into the soft black leather, was a wax impression. A crowned bird with a flawless left wing. The queen's current seal is chipped, Alara said. This copy came from the old royal mold, held by the medical college for emergency decrees. Access is recorded under the authority of its director. Vera reached into her satchel. Tamsin drew her sword, but the physician was faster. She pulled out a syringe filled with clear liquid and lunged toward Maelys. Alara stepped between them. The needle entered her upper arm. Tamsin struck Vera's wrist. The syringe shattered on the stone floor. Guards forced the physician to her knees as the temple erupted into shouting. Maelys caught Alara before she fell. The queen's bare hands closed around her without hesitation, only terror. "What did she give you?" Alara fought the heaviness spreading through her limbs. Silverthorn in sweet willow spirit, concentrated. Perhaps is not good enough. Now you sound like me. Malus lowered her onto the temple steps, but did not release her hand. Stay awake. You first. The armor poisoned you. Alara. Winterroot vial. Left wrist. Half for you, half for me. Malus found the winterroot, swallowed half, then lifted the rest to Alara's lips. Vera struggled against the guards. You need me! Without the correct antidote, both of them will die. Alara tasted the tincture and forced her eyes open. Her satchel. Blue bottle, probably unlabeled. She would keep the antidote close, in case the dose reached her skin. Tamsin searched it and found 3 blue bottles. Which one? She demanded. Vera smiled through blood on her lip. Release me. Alara saw cork, silver, and wax stoppers. Silverthorn antidote reacted with metal. Open the wax one, she said. Test 1 drop on the poisoned thread. The black thread faded to white. Alara placed Malus's dose in her hand. Malus pushed it back. You were injected directly. And you have been poisoned for weeks. Drink. We divide it equally. That is not medically sound. It is a royal command. Alara glared at her. You promised to stop doing that. Malus looked ashamed. Then it is a request. Do not save me by abandoning yourself. Alara divided the antidote equally. They drank together. The priestess extinguished the braziers while queen and surgeon waited hand in hand for their hearts to steady. Vera's courage broke first. When Tamsin produced the old seal mold, Vera named the armor master, attendant, and guard who had served her plot. Malus listened without her armor. No one called the scars at Malus's collar weakness. Alara rose beside her, waiting to be asked before helping. Malus extended her hand. Alara took it. Together, they faced the court. Vera Corvin will be tried for murder, treason, and the abuse of royal medical authority, Malus said. Every healer who helped her will answer before an open tribunal. The law that allows physicians to overrule a conscious patient's refusal will be repealed before sunset. The high priestess glanced at the crown. And the coronation, your majesty. Malus looked down at the poisoned armor lying open on the altar. Then she stepped over it. A crown that requires me to wear my own cage is not worth having. She knelt in a plain black shirt, with no steel over her heart. When the crown touched her head, the temple thundered with applause. Alara woke hours later in the royal bed, her arm bandaged, and Malus asleep in a nearby chair. One bare hand rested close to Alara's without touching. Alara shifted. Malus woke immediately. How long have you been there? Long enough to learn that you steal blankets. I was drugged. A poor defense. Alara tried to sit up. Malus reached toward her, then stopped. May I? Yes. Malus helped her against the pillows and poured water with hands that were not quite steady. I owe you an apology, the queen said. Several. I had you arrested without telling you the plan. I told myself the deception protected you, because your reaction needed to convince Vera. In truth, I trusted my strategy more than I trusted your right to choose your part in it. Alara accepted the cup. Protection without choice is a prettier cage. I remember. You hurt me. Malus did not hide behind rank or silence. I know. If you leave when you are well, the gates will open. You will have an escort, payment for your service, and whatever resources your hospital needs. I will not make your forgiveness the price of your freedom. Without armor or her cold mask, Malus looked exhausted and afraid. And if I stay? Alara asked. Then you set the terms. I will not become a decorative royal physician. Good. You would terrify the council. I want a medical academy for omegas, betas, and anyone the old colleges refuse. Independent control. Public accounts. No noble can choose our patients. Done. You do not get to say done before hearing the cost. Name it. The abandoned cavalry hospital by the south wall. Repairs. Salaries for 12 instructors. Free treatment twice a week for the lower city. You have been awake 2 minutes and spent a quarter of my road budget, Malis said. Then your roads will need to be less ambitious. Cruel woman. Also, I will not sleep in your chambers, because an assassin might appear. The Queen's expression went neutral. Understood. If I sleep here again, it will be because you asked, and I wanted to. The neutrality broke. Malis looked at her for a long moment. Elara, when you are healed, would you have dinner with me? No counsel, no poisoned cups, no medical examination. Are you asking me as my queen? No. Then ask properly. Malis sat on the bed, leaving space between them. Will you stay for dinner, because I do not know how to stop wanting you near me? Elara's answer came softly. Yes. The Queen's gaze dropped to her mouth and rose again. May I kiss you? You may. Mayalis touched Elara's cheek first, then leaned closer. The gentle kiss carried no possession. It felt like a locked door opening from inside. When they parted, Mayalis rested her forehead against Elara's. Your pulse is elevated, she whispered. You are becoming unbearably pleased with yourself. It is one of my better days. 3 months later, the abandoned cavalry hospital opened its doors as the Mar Academy of Free Medicine. The first class welcomed omegas, betas, rejected alphas, and a former palace cook gifted at detecting poison. Twice weekly, lower city families filled the hall. Above every treatment bed hung one rule: ask. Listen, believe. Elara controlled the accounts. The crown funded but did not own the academy. Mayalis silenced every complaint by demanding it be made publicly. On a winter evening, Elara finished surgery after sunset and found Mayalis waiting beneath the courtyard arch. The Queen wore a wool coat instead of armor. Snow rested in her unbound hair. 2 guards stood far enough away to pretend they were not watching. You are late, Mayalis said. A patient inconveniently chose not to heal, according to the royal schedule. I will issue a decree. I will ignore it. Mayalis smiled and held out a parcel. Inside lay the first black thread taken from the poisoned armor, sealed beneath glass. The silver thorn had been removed, leaving only an ordinary strand. The trial ended today, she said. Vera and her accomplices were convicted. I thought you should decide what becomes of the final evidence. Elara looked toward the academy windows, glowing gold against the snow. Put it in the entrance hall. A grim decoration. A reminder. Armor can protect us. It can also hide the wound. Mayalis was quiet for a moment. And sometimes, it becomes the weapon. Only if we never let anyone look beneath it. The Queen lifted one bare hand between them. She no longer wore gloves when she visited, but she never assumed that courage on one day guaranteed comfort on the next. May I? She asked. Elara placed her hand in Mayalis's. Yes. They crossed the courtyard together. Students waved from the windows. Patients who once would have bowed now smiled, because Elara had taught them that gratitude did not require surrender. Mayalis paused at the academy door, where the rules applied to queens exactly as they applied to everyone else. She did not look diminished without steel. She looked like a woman who had learned that being seen was not the same as being conquered. And Elara, who had entered the palace as a convenient suspect, had become neither a royal possession nor a secret kept behind guarded doors. She had built a place where every person owned the right Mayalis had once defended with a dagger, the right to decide who came close. The woman no one could touch had not been conquered. She had simply chosen the hands in which she finally felt safe. When do you think Mayalis truly began trusting Elara? During the first treatment, when she revealed her hidden scar, or when she removed her armor before the entire court? Share your answer in the comments, and subscribe for more girls' love stories, where protection never means possession, and the fiercest hearts still get to choose how they open.